So Hira Osama, our guest on the show today, you are a marketing strategist and email copywriter with over 10 years experience helping clients increase sales through email, VSLs, and landing pages, and of course, coaching. You're also a psychology graduate, a mum to 2 kids. You love tea, naps, Netflix binges. You've coached over 2,000 South Asian women to help them start a career in freelancing through Instagram and Facebook communities. You've partnered with 2 marketing agencies to drive 1.5 million plus US dollars in revenue through email campaigns and VSLs in the last year alone. Amazing. Notably, you've also written a solo email campaign that raised over 100 grand US for a nonprofit, and a single VSL brought in almost 500,000 for a telemedicine company. I've got a burning question to start with, which is the feat of helping over 2,000 South Asian women to help them start freelancing. Would love to hear more about that if you could share.
Well, it all started back when I was in college in 2010, and I just saw, I was lucky enough to get in a college that is well reputable, and I had access to opportunities here in Pakistan. I live in a major city in Lahore. So I just saw this job opportunity where I could write for an agency, and I applied and I got the gig and everything, and it all just flowed from there. That is basically how I started my career in writing. But soon I found out that there were women around me who did not have that opportunity or that access. So, and I as much as I enjoyed the privilege, I was like, okay, we live in a digital world. Why can't there be a way to make this possible for other women, women who have kids? I did not have kids back then. I was just a student. But this thought, sort of like came and then it went away as I started doing my graduation in psychology. And once I got married and then I had my daughter, that was a turning moment for me. And that is when I actually started in freelancing, like full with just, all my might. And that is when I discovered that women have a lot of questions around how to earn money from the comfort of their home, how they can start freelancing, how they can start copywriting. And these are women who are married now, but they have great degrees, they have done their masters, they're good at what they do. They want to take out the time, which is quite difficult living in a South Asian household because here, a woman is sort of very much responsible for what goes around the house. So we're responsible for cleaning, for cooking, for everything else. And there might be house help here, but a lot of the pressure falls on the woman. So, and there has been some education going on around with the husband sort of chiming in, but that is like happening as of now. In 2016 to 2018, there were a lot of women coming to me like, how do I do this? I want to do this. And that's when I started my Instagram, Hira Osama Social. And I just started posting about, job opportunities and how you can start with copywriting. And while I did not consider myself as this source where, I can teach you copywriting, but I knew a lot of other people who are doing that, like the Copy Hackers is a great resource. The Copywriter Club is a great resource. I still recommend that. And then Francis Naya and his the Nomad newsletter. Back then, he was also doing some educating on his Instagram. So I used to just refer people to these experts. And what I saw was that just like replying to a DM and telling someone that these are the resources, it led women to go learn on their own, and then 6 months later they would come to me, okay, we have done this, now what's next? And that's how I started, like, okay, I need to like formalize this a bit. I need to create a process because this way it is all over the place. So that's when I launched my 1 month to 1K social media marketing course, which I gave away for free to a lot of women because it just didn't feel right charging for it. But I did charge for it for some people who could afford it. So during that time, it's sort of this whole thing developed into a community. And it's not like it's a very formalized mastermind or something, but it's a community We're all learning. I still get DMs on my Instagram. I still get students asking me stuff. I got to become a guest speaker on 2 universities here in Lahore. And then I also started, people started inviting me to their workshops and stuff. And that's where I got to meet women and I got to talk to them. And over 2000, or probably even more if you if you sort of count the a number of women who have, just interacted with me over the years. They have launched their careers, some have launched their agencies. And sometimes I'm, just going out, attending maybe probably like an event or something, and someone would come up and they'd say, "Oh, we heard you talk in that video, and this thing that you said really resonated with me. And you said that if I can do it, then you can too." And yeah, that's basically why I keep going too, by the way, because I have my low moments too. And I'm like, I need to do this so other people can see, they can look at me and they can say, okay, this woman, she's from Pakistan, she has 2 kids, a very, normal life, nothing like too crazy, but she's doing this thing, so we can too. So yeah, that's basically the entire story of how I've coached these more than 2,000 right now women to start earning online, and they're doing amazing things.
Yeah,
That's
awesome. It's
really, really nice
it's
to hear.
amazing too. Like how far along, doesn't matter where we're at, we still get nervous about things. Like every time we submit something, we're like, I hope this is good enough. Every time we talk to a client, like it never goes away. And that's important for people to understand, is that
Yeah.
I don't know that in any of my previous jobs or this one, and you've been doing this for a long time, like you always doubt yourself. How big are these audiences, like at the universities, for example?
Yeah, well, for universities, it would be like one class of a certain semester. So 50 students in one, around 60 in one. And then if it's a workshop, I try to keep them very intimate, like 20 to
Mhm.
30 students. And this is an in-person workshop. So I would rather have 20 to 30 members and just attend so I can like interact with them and I can answer their questions. And because when I do Q&A, it takes 1 hour and people are like telling me to stop. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I have to answer their questions. So yeah, I try to keep it intimate. And this is basically one of the reasons that I haven't been able to like formalize so much, because I want to do more one-on-one. I want to give more one-on-one access to me, because that is how you learn. You learn when people tell you answers to your specific queries. And by the time that person develops this thinking, and they learn how to think for themselves, so they can self coach themselves. But during that initial time period, there is sort of some hand holding required, especially for people here in Pakistan, because we do not have access to the sort of opportunities that people abroad may have. So, and
Mhm.
while right now it has changed a lot with copy hackers, again, TCC, and many other masterminds, and the awareness that has, risen in these communities. But before that, it was like uh, I used to tell people what copywriting is, and nobody would get me, even
Mm.
still. But yeah, it's changing now.
It feels like you're part of a fairly significant change there in Pakistan, especially with the women there. And you talk about the roles, the typical roles that they
Yeah.
have. What were some of the perhaps fears or objections that you kind of experienced from them when you were kind of presenting this as a possible alternative, and they're kind of interested in building their own businesses?
That is a very good question. Um, well, basically, the most work that I've done is probably on mindset. And I would rather tell them that this is the resource to learn copywriting. This is the resource to learn how to land clients. And this is the resource to, create your pitches or something like that. But the work that we do on the mindset is the most foundational. And I resonate with it because a lot, because I too have had to work a lot on my mindset, because A, you have limiting beliefs. B, you're not confident to be on camera. It is a very, major thing that I face. C, people, you're always doubting yourself. Even if you write well, women, found that they were doubting that, oh, but how do I? Plus, there's the language barrier as well. So even if somebody knows how to speak English, they probably won't be able to get all those different accents that a client might have, or they might not be able to articulate their ideas in the way that they can in their mother tongue. So these are some of the things that happened. And my one advice was always, just practice. Nobody cares about how you look on camera or what your accent is. They only care if you can get the job done. So what I would tell them is to practice. And of course, if you do something for the very first time, it sucks, but by the 100th time you get way better than you were before. So you have to start somewhere. So it was just mostly me pushing people to just do. And now I get I talked to someone who learned this, and then she also taught her son all of this, and he is very young. I think he's in the eighth standard, and he's doing his own stuff. And they belong to somewhat of a village. And when I was talking to her son, he was asking me all sorts of questions. He was very confident, and I was so proud that. And I told her that, remember when you talked to me, you were like, "But how can I do this?" And then it's sort of like a generational thing that's happening here, a generational a shift that is happening here, and people are leaning more and more towards experimenting new things and getting out of their comfort zone. So yeah, to answer your question, mindset work is the most that we did.
And obviously you've been on a bunch of podcasts and then the public speaking at the university and everything else. Was that something that you just started as part of the copywriting, or did you have any experience with talking in front of a crowd or being on camera? Did you have anything before your copywriting career?
I was the most introvert person throughout my college and university life, and I would just do anything to not be on the camera or be on a stage. I still hate to be that, center of attention. But yeah, and I've had some like bad episodes as well, in terms of, me just getting cold feet and stuff like that. But when I first did my first podcast was with the Copywriter Club, and it was such a major podcast for me that I just I prepped for it. And as I was prepping for it, I felt like with every hour that I put into this preparation mode, I get better. I feel better. So it's something that I learned that, okay, after 1 hour, I feel like somewhat okay. And then after 3 hours of prepping, I feel that I maybe can do this. And then again, Rob and Kira were very like, oh, you can do this. Oh, just tell us to stop, whatever. And we didn't even need to stop. We just the conversation went on. So that's my first experience was that. And then afterwards, I sort of started getting all of these opportunities to speak. So I think it's just something that practice makes you perfect at this point for me. And again, me doing that mindset work that, and me telling at one point, I was just telling myself, nobody is obsessed with you. So stop being obsessed about, where you're doing stuff wrong. So yeah, I just started again, a lot of mindset work and a lot of talking to myself, getting out of my own head, and changing the narrative that was going in my head that, oh, you're gonna mess up because and even if you do, so what? So just telling alternative narratives to myself in my head, so I can do better, and I did.
And what's that line nobody's thinking about what you're doing, everybody's just thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of people on stage in a room, or a bunch of people like even now, I'm like, does my hair look really stupid? You know what I mean? Because that's just it's human nature.
Everyone is obsessing about, oh my God, do I have double chin? Am I is my watch okay? Is it broken?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I have this fear that I'm gonna spill the water somehow. It's so weird.
Yeah, same. Every
Brain
time
tells you the most weirdest stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Really, I can feel, even just the way you're talking, I can feel how much value it must be on the coaching that you provide. Because even then I was like, oh, I need to write a few of these things down. So it'd be good to watch back through and take some more notes. Taking a slight turn to one of the things that stood out when kind of we were looking at your website is your personal brand is very, very clear. I can see all the value propositions. I can see that the effort that's been put into it, and it's very consistent across different channels. Tell us a little bit about, well, how it's been building your own personal brand, but also how you're helping others do that in order to land better clients.
Yeah. Well, it all started when I sort of realized that I have to work on my edge. So, if there are 50 applicants applying for a gig, and they're all from the US or maybe from Canada or from Australia, and I'm the only one from Pakistan, then what can be my edge? Where can I impress the prospect? And that is when I realized that I have to start building my name, because I don't have the opportunity or the leverage to attend in-person events or fly in another city and meet the client there and maybe have this lunch or something like that. So I sort of learned that, okay, social media is my edge. My website is my edge. I can do a bunch of podcast interviews. That's my edge. I can put extra effort in networking. So my website is basically, it's very dear to me. I'm obsessive about my website. I change it I'm like always just changing the copy to reflect what I'm doing. So and it started by this very basic one-page website back in 2016 or 17, and now it has turned into this virtual office where I want people to just walk in and see and learn about me without having to ask too many questions. So building a personal brand has amazing benefits, because there is no other way that people can learn about you if you don't tell them. Like, how is someone going to know? And how are you going to be memorable or unforgettable if people don't even know about you? So this is why I'm big on, building your brand on social media. I always tell people to at least choose one platform and start, optimizing your profile and just, start posting some relevant content on it. And this is basically, I provided this service between 2018 to 20, I think, to copywriters. I actually helped them build their personal brands, and I've helped copywriters like Kira Hug and Francis and Summer West to, back when they were just starting up with their newsletters, to help them build their brands. Kira already had her, TCC, but the other ones were starting up with their newsletters, doing amazing stuff, but, still very confused about how to break into this online world. And I'm good with putting on appearances, apparently. So if you have read that book, The Alter Ego Effect, you will learn in that book that you can just switch your personality based on any character that you like or any role model that you like. So, for example, if I'm like Clark Kent in my life, but I can be Superman when I appear on a call. And just using that principle, I think the book didn't even come out back then, but there was this idea rolling around. And later, like when I read the book, I even like created my own framework around it, that you have to, because everyone was like, I don't want to sound too braggy on social media. I don't want to brag, or I don't want to talk about myself. I hate talking about myself. And I was like, so just let me do it. Let me talk about you. Okay. And when I'm going to ghostwrite it, and you just have to approve. And after a lot of coaching and mindset work, the person will say, okay, let's just post it. And that sort of like started this chain of brand building and everything going around. And then I saw other people doing it, and I just sort of like replicated that. And I think having my personal brand is exactly what makes my what makes it so hard for prospects to say no to me. And the reason that I close like around 50% of my prospects and they end up being my client is because I have that work done. The foundational work is done. I just have to send them the links, and then I just come up with a stellar proposal. And I'm on that 100% ballpark where I'm like, I checked all of the boxes. So if I was to send someone an email without having a personal brand, they would be like, okay, this person writes really well, but are they legit? And again, being from Pakistan, I needed that edge. But I think right now, whichever part of the world you are, I think you do need that edge in order to remain unforgettable.
Or sometimes the decision between hiring somebody and not is that. It's just, you get 30 proposals in your inbox. It's just that one little small thing. But you also reminded me kind of like how privileged I am to be born and raised speaking English, and most of the copywriting in the world is in my language, or I guess technically it's Reese's language because they started
hold on a second.
Yeah, they started. But I forget, because a lot of times now, and you and I have worked together on a few things, so a lot of times now, like I'll look at things during the day for my day job, and I'm like, I'm not getting it. Like, it's not clicking for me, and I know this stuff, So, what advice would you have for someone who's not like a native English speaker, or didn't come up in the culture to kind of break into the copywriting or advertising or marketing? What would you tell somebody who was interested in doing it, but maybe a little hesitant because they're like, oh, I don't know if I can compete with like the native speakers or the people based in the US and so forth?
Well, my first advice to anyone, I do get a lot of these questions, is just start watching a lot of shows on Netflix, Amazon, whatever, wherever you can. So just start watching a lot of shows, and please do not, substitute the language to watch in your mother tongue. Just watch it in English and just, try to understand, because most of the stuff that we miss out here is you learn how to talk in English and everything else. What you miss out is apparently, the accent and the pop culture references. So someone would say something or make a joke, and you might not get it because you're not familiar with that tone. Here in South Asian culture, we're very when we're making a joke, and or when we're just having our time together, friends, we tend to be very sarcastic. We tend to be like sometimes even downright mean. So you have to sort of like, you have to understand how different sort of jokes and sarcasm or any sort of tone comes out in another culture. And that's different for people living in UK and US and even Australia. That's what I've seen after meeting with all of these people online. But my first and foremost, tip would be to just watch a lot of TV shows. And then once you start learning a bit of the foundation, then switch to watching podcasts, and just start listening with subtitles on when you're watching a TV show. Just put the subtitles on and watch it, and experiment with different genres. Don't just keep on watching Friends over and over again. It's great, but switch to other stuff as well. This advice goes to me as well. I sort of had to stop watching Friends after like watching it for the 50th time. So and then later on, I would say what I ask people is to, like, if two friends are working on the same goal, get together and do a mock-up call together. So for example, if me and my friend are both struggling with English, what we would do is get on a call. Or I tend to do this on call, because in person you would just end up joking to each other. So on a call, like in that client setting, just sort of have a conversation. And what I used to do it was even provide like mock-up interviews for my students. And I would say, okay, I'm the client and this is the gig, and you need to like convince me to hire you. So this is something that, people then learn by practice.
Really good tips. Friends is the series I hear everyone watches, as in anyone who's learning English or had to learn English. Friends is always the number one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they'd
R.I.P.
allow it to be
Matthew
shown.
Perry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Rest in peace. He just
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I read his book. It was actually very remarkable. He just published a year ago about his addiction. Very honest. Not to get off topic, but holy crap! I mean that's no joke. Like the amount of money.
I have to
It's
read it.
good. Yeah, it's very gripping. It's just like you can't put it down because it's like it's so sad and so like emotional, and like the amount of money like he was spending, like he spent like $8 million to try to get clean, and he would be clean, and then because he had the friends of it, obviously I'm talking about friends now, but friends had like millions and millions of dollars in revenue, and he would pay somebody. He's like, I got $10 million, just go get me some oxy or whatever, like our
Wow.
pharmaceutical industry poison people with over here. So yeah, what a tragedy, but that's a good show.
Yeah.
Look, as long as you're not watching like the Real Housewives or anything like that. So anybody who's
Yeah.
watching or listening, like, don't watch our
I
shit.
haven't
Don't
watched
watch
it.
our garbage.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, so I don't know. But I do watch a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Friends, and
Yeah,
Yes,
there's
Brooklyn
another
Nine-Nine
that's
show
good.
is the
just that
one.
I forgot the name completely, but yeah, a lot of comedy, and I have to get out of it. I'm like, okay, you know, there's
Yeah.
some serious shit happening out there. Just go and focus on that. And again, yeah, you know, just I sort of like to give myself a reality check by telling that, you know, this thing is going on in the world, and I have to get out of my own mindset and out of my own comfort zone, because when you're working for a long time, you sort of build a very comfortable life. And I've done that over
Yeah.
the years. And as you said that you feel you're very privileged, at this point, I feel like I'm very privileged. And I sort of enjoy that privilege as well. But again, I have to remind myself and give myself that reality check that, you know, things weren't always like this. And things aren't like this for other people. So, you know, just keep doing the work. So you might just pave the pathway for other people who are to follow.
Talking about kind of living comfortably now, what's the situation like? Is it in terms of like how much are you working, like working versus earning? Like, is it pretty comfortable hours wise? I know, you know, Lee and I have both had experiences where kind of total focus time has kind of dropped since we went freelancing, but income has kind of gone up.
Well, for me, I had this rule that until and unless both of my kids are off to school, my daughter is in preschool right now, and my son is 1 year old. So he's going to start school in about 2.5 years. And I told myself that for the sake of my sanity and for the sake of my kids, you know, that I'm there for them, I'm only going to work part-time or maybe less than part-time. So I haven't taken on any full-time roles. I had to reject some amazing full-time roles just last month, and I was like, you know, but still, you know, this is something that I chose to do, and so I end up like working around 20 hours. This is like the max time that I would do in actual work. I'm not talking about my business, because I tend to be working on my business around the clock somehow, because I'm either working on my newsletter, generating ideas for my social media posts and something, but I don't count that as work, because it's just something that I might be doing on my phone, or maybe taking a course here or there at night. It's like, you know, by this time, it's a sort of a leisure time for me. But, you know, working on client work, that's maximum if I'm having a very crammed up week. It's 20 hours per week. Otherwise it's just like 10 to 15, 10 to 12 hours. And I am, again, as I said, that privileged enough in a way that I have grown my work to this point that I am able to earn what an average copywriter would earn in a full-time job. So again, this is something that I had to uh, work on in terms of creating my systems, and then I'm very, um, you know, I have a vetting process for the sort of clients that I work with. So I'd only send a pitch to a client if it's a hell yes for me. So even when I'm pitching, and I do pitch a lot, but I only pitch to clients when it's a hell yes for me and I know. And even then, you know, when we start the conversation, I'm constantly vetting that, is this the right fit for me? Because once I'm in, I'm going to give you the best work of your life. Like that is my motto. I'm like, if you're working with me, you're not going to want to stop working with me unless some major shift happens or something like that. I once had a client who worked with me for 4 years, and considering that my entire career is like 5 years, if you consider the break that I took in between, then it's 5 years, you know, after the break. So I have some major long-term clients that usually I end up telling that, okay, I've outgrown this role or something like that. But because once I'm in, then I'm in. So yeah. And then again with the work, I sort of have the systems where I can do like a 5 hours work in 3 hours because document everything. Once I start working with a client, start creating my own SOPs. So I have this SOP in front of me. So writing becomes following that SOP more than, creating something from scratch. So that is why I'm able to do my work faster and I'm able to work less than part-time or the same amount of income that any full-time copywriter can.
That's fantastic. It's really nice to hear because we've had a mix of guests on, and I believe you're our first parent. Lee, is that right? I think so.
I think
And one
so.
of the
Yeah, I believe so.
and
Yeah.
one of the things that we want to do on this show is highlight not only the career side of things, but also the people talk about freedom and freedom
Yeah.
lifestyles, etc. And sometimes that looks like a beach on the a laptop on the beach,
Yeah.
going off and doing crazy adventures. But sometimes it just means spending more time with family, and especially if you're
Yeah.
raising a family.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to hear you've carved out that time so that your kids literally have more exposure to you as a mum
Yeah.
in the house. How has that felt transitioning to this place now where you're able to do that? How does that feel?
Well, I've always worked, minimally. In the first 3 years, I tend to only work like 1 hour per day. So, and I would just work when my child would take a nap. And I've like slowly grown this to a point. So it's not like I worked full time before and then I sort of minimized it. I'm doing it the other way around. So I've been working even less than this, and I'm sort of like growing step by step. Now that my kids are, my daughter is 5 years old and she's sort of like she has her own thing and she has her own routine, and I do have the leverage to hire some house help for stuff. So now I'm like, okay, I have this stuff to do. And in fact, the any other time that I have left, I just tend to work on my newsletter or post on social media or just upskill myself. So the transition is, I would say the transition to like slightly working more is doing good. But I try to always, make sure that if I look at myself and I see that, okay, considering myself, considering my situation, what would make this project a success? Because life happens. Your child may get sick, and sometimes I've had that happen. That my baby would get sick in the middle of a lunch, or something at school comes up, and I have to just go there and take part in some presentations or anything like that. Or it's just like different seasons of life just keep happening when you're a parent, and it's amazing how unpredictable things can be for someone like I used to love my comfort zone. I used to love predictability, and now I've just embraced the fact that okay, this is how life is, and this is how it's going to be. And so just considering that, I make sure that I only work with clients so that I don't end up messing stuff for them or I don't end up getting overworked, because I have worked throughout when my daughter was born, and then I only took like a 40 or maybe a 1 year a 1 month break when my son was born. So it's like I'm working throughout, but the time is very minimal every day, and just like slightly growing it every day to start in that to come in that part-time ballpark.
Got you. And there's an element of the flexibility you have to manage all those unexpected things as they come around.
Honestly, it's been my work journey has been like I can easily get away without doing the work. Like honestly, I don't have to work because my bills will be paid. I'll have groceries at my home. My kids will still get an education because my husband works. And that is the case with most women in Pakistan. The man is the bread earner of the family, and the woman is, just taking care of the house. And when I started working, it was mainly because I wanted a role model for my daughter. And it just started like a passion of sorts. I never even intended to become this copywriter or, this expert or something like that. I wouldn't even call myself an expert, but, whatever I am. I didn't intend to become this. But it just sort of like started happening. So again, this idea when you don't have to work, but you just want to work out of pure psychological reasons or pure motivation or pure like, just you just wanting to do something good, being a role model for other people, for your children. It's harder in a way because you don't have any sort of deadline and you don't have any sort of like, oh, I have to pay the bills. So sometimes, I'm doing the hard work and I'm like, "Ugh, do I have to do this?" But then I'm like, yes, I do. I made a promise to myself and I'm going to do it. So it's like, it's sort of like that sort of a journey where you have to
Yeah.
fight your demons as well.
It's interesting how that works both ways because, not having like the pressure of actually having to earn can cause, like get a little complacent. I know when I get comfortable, I'm not as aggressive with things as I could be. I've also found that when I'm comfortable in earning what I need to earn and I'm hitting all my marks or whatever, I prospect better. I come
Yeah.
across better in interviews because I'm not like, I remember in the early days, I was like, I need this job. I need this job.
Yeah.
So like I would just be a ball of nerves, or I would say even more stupid things than I do now. And now when I go into an interview or whatever it is, I can be like, look, I really want this job. I don't need this job. Or I want this client, but I don't need this client. If somebody's like, why do you want to work here? Why do you want my business? I'll say, well, I want to do it, but to be honest with you, I don't need this. Now, that may not be received well, but it's kind of like the same mindset, I think, like that along those
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah. And I think it does, it happens with time. There used to be a time when um, I was like paying for courses and I do that out of my own pocket. And that was a time when I was like enrolled in some very expensive courses. And I was like, oh, I have to have this gig because I have to pay my subscription. Otherwise, how would I learn? Because there's only so much that free resources can teach you. And when you want to upscale, that's when. So I had, and I guess now, considering all of the subscriptions, I probably should reassess my statement. I think I do have to work because I'm enrolled in so many masterminds and so many stuff and so many overheads that probably I should reassess that statement. But yes, you're very right. With the sort of, just being on call with that energy that I don't need this and there's no sense of desperation. It's coming from a place of, just expectation that, I can do great work for you. So just, try me out.
Without naming names or anything like that, because I'm a huge fan of courses. So is Reese. Like it's always when you go to buy it that first time, and you're like, you look at the price tag, whether you have money or not. You're like, oh, that seems like a lot of money. I've never regretted joining a group or purchasing a course. What's your experience been like with courses and groups over the years?
Oh, it has been amazing. I think if I like did 30% of the work, 80% of the work that, from 30 to 80, I went just solely based on courses and masterminds. And I should mention that I only enroll for the very best and the very famous ones. So I'm not like testing or throwing money out. I'm making a smart purchase, although I don't do that otherwise. But in terms of courses, because it's my own money, I just make the smart purchase. So it has helped me immensely because networking, uh being again from Pakistan, I do not have anyone to talk about copywriting. My friends even don't realize, although now they've learned what it is, but they don't really have that insight as to, what I may do in a situation, and the ability to come and say in a group that this is something that is challenging for me and just help me out. So networking is a big one. Number two, having access to a mentor can change you uh, in terms of your mindset, because when you can just ask someone that, and I've come to my mentors with some very ridiculous problems, honestly, and they've told me very patiently, very kindly that you can go through this. As a first time mom, as a first time parent, growing my business from scratch, like I didn't have anything back then, any testimonials or case studies, and stuff was like sort of challenging back then. And just people like my mentors telling me that you can do this and this is the way to do it. Here, I'll help you, I'll share some resources, I'll make this connection for you, or something like that. That helps a lot. But that being said, just being in a mastermind won't make you successful. You have to do the work. And I realized this long ago that if you enroll in a mastermind and this, first of all, you get this huge rush of dopamine that, oh, I'm a part of this big thing. But then you realize that you just like sort of, you have to work more, even more than you used to. And sometimes I'm like, I would do my client project in like 3 hours, but now I have to do the stuff that I promised my mentor. I have to like do this work on my business that my mentor asked me to, and it is going to take like double amount of hours. So most of the times when I'm working late and I'm up early, it's usually when I'm working on my own business. So you have to do the work. Again, just being in a mastermind in itself isn't going to change the trajectory of your work.
Excellent point. And I think Lee and I have seen this in some of the groups we've been in as well. There's always going to be a few people in there that they get super excited, they join, and then they don't do the work, and perhaps even complain or sort of like throw the toys out the pram, like, why am I not getting it? Why am I not seeing the success that others are? So yeah,
I
really
think it's mainly because sometimes people aren't ready to join a group and they hurry to get a part to become a part of something big. So I always tell them that if you are earning enough that you can pay for the mastermind in full, go ahead and enroll then. Even if you're paying in installments, like, if you prefer to do that. But just if you have, like, for example, if something costs 2K a month, at least have 10K in your bank. That way you can assess where you are and if this group is right for you. So otherwise you'll just end up like wasting money, honestly, because how can someone perform well, learn, and scale when they're in that mindset of scarcity and they're worrying that, okay, if I pay the subscription, I might not be able to pay my bills. So it's just like that. You have to be in that mindset as well.
You start to resent, like, if you're not making money and you owe them money. So if you're like, hey, what is this course all about? Like, what am I doing here? Oh, and then you're gonna hit my credit card every month for whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think of it that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish you were around about 20 years ago when I started making money and wasting it and taking out loans and buying cars I didn't need and everything else. So yeah, I could have used that advice. I wouldn't have listened. I would have listened anyway.
I
But yeah,
have learned it too. I've made some bad decisions too. It's not that now sitting in this place and talking about it, it feels like, oh, I've been like this since always. No, I think I just got smarter after my second baby, honestly, and I've started making better decisions. And yeah, I always say that as I'm nearing 30, like 30 years of age, I think I'm making better decisions. So, and I feel like I should have had this wisdom like 10 years ago, and I would have made better decisions back then too.
Taking a bit of to go a little bit more specific. So I know in the intro we mentioned email copywriting, VSLs. One, it'd be good to just get a quick insight into what those mean, and how you use them to make your clients money.
Okay, so well, email copywriting is basically sending your list emails with your offer and just promoting your offer in your emails. And a lot of companies use email marketing to leverage the one-on-one relationship that they have developed over the years with their subscribers. And even if there is a non-existent relationship, there is a way to leverage that still by just implementing the right welcome sequences and just starting off on the right foot by making sure that your copy does not sound too salesy and it's more humanistic. And VSLs are basically video sales letters. And over the years, I've done like YouTube scripts, Facebook video ads, and start engine videos, launch good videos, and all of these, scripts that, and then also the funnel copy that goes with it. But mostly I'm also writing, just scripts as a standalone service. So again, with a script, it's very direct response. So back when I started freelancing, I was doing social media, and I learned that a lot of people who were coming to me for social media had a broken funnel. So I then turned my services into this full funnel marketing, and then later on specialized in emails and VSLs, because these are the two things where you can measure your revenue. And you can actually see that a sequence, you can measure the revenue by seeing that how many people clicked on the CTA, or with a VSL, you can say how many people watched the video and then clicked on the offer or bought the offer. So basically, these are the two things that business owners can leverage the most, in my opinion, if they have a good offer. Of course, having a good offer is the foundation of it all. And my frameworks to write an email or a VSL are pretty simple. And this is something that I learned a while ago, that A, always sound like a human. Don't sound like a business or a company or an enterprise, or like worst thing you can do is sound like ChatGPT or a robot. So just sound like a human, keep it engaging, and make sure that you are not asking people something that they need to do out of fear. So instead of enticing fear in your audience, you can entice desire or love, or this idea of being in a place that they can, if they purchase the product. So like, I don't know how, like, what to call it, but I call it coming from a place of empathy that you should have for your audience when you're marketing. And I basically, a while back ago, I created something and it had a lot of FOMO in it. And I used a lot of scarcity tactics because I had just recently taken a course and it sort of followed that formula, and I did that. And then this person that I was working with, he told me that I love the copy, but maybe just, turn this around and make it come from a place of desire. And when I did that, I saw the copy and I was like, okay, now this sounds like something that would convince me as a buyer to take action. So that's what I learned. And whether it's an email or it's a VSL, with VSLs, you obviously have to keep in mind the video component, that whatever you're writing is going to appear in video, and that sort of changes the format. With emails, you can be more, tell a story and just, give a perspective or a point of view, and then, you can wrap it up. With a VSL, you have to, like, it appears in a video format, and you have to keep that in mind. And also with emails, you can just implement them right away. But with VSLs, they usually end up going through stages of compliance, and then a creative team, and then, the people who are recording the video, and then the founders, and even the CEOs who are, just, saying the script that you wrote. So the process is sort of different, but if anyone combines these two things, I think they're amazing for direct response. So yeah, again, just, my basic formula is to just be very human focused in your copy when you're writing either an email or a VSL.
It's definitely
That's true.
something I've seen. I've seen loads of the kind of former copy that you talked about that's kind of going really ham on like creating guilt and all the negative kind of emotions. So yeah, it's nice to hear more of a human-centered approach. I mean, you just mentioned kind of the process with some of those teams where you've got different layers of the company. How have you found clients' kind of reactions to when you're like on the other side of the world compared to them? How many clients are you working with that aren't in Southeast Asia?
Well, none of my clients are from Pakistan. Each of my clients is either from Canada or USA, and maybe one or two from UK. And people are like, they don't believe that I'm from Pakistan, because they have this other image that, I might appear way. And I am a practicing Muslim, but I may not look like I am. So it's just like, people are confused that, okay. And this one person had like and in fact, there are 2-3 people who in the last year have had a 15-minute discussion on, am I really from Pakistan? Or maybe I'm from Middle East, or maybe I'm from, I don't know what other ideas they had, that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to show you the traffic on my roads, and then you're going to say that I'm from Pakistan. But yeah, it's not like they were coming from a place of, disrespect or anything. They were like genuinely concerned. They were like, okay, I don't know a lot about Pakistan, but just tell me more. I want to know more. I didn't have this idea that someone would be, on a call with me and know this much about my business, and they would be from Pakistan, because this is, and this is from this is someone with a very sort of technical finance niche. So it's okay for him to assume that me being a woman from Pakistan and a parent, I might not know because, but they don't know that I do my research. And this is why people are like, oh, wow. So yeah, well, reactions are mostly good. People are mostly interested in, oh, what I mean, like our food and our culture, and they're asking about. And I've had many people from India who are good friends, and they're like, I don't know what the fight is about. I mean, you're great, I'm great. I don't know what the fuss is about. So it's like, yeah, it's a fun conversation that I have with people around the world.
It's like I just remember that I've forgotten that Pakistan and India have had
Some
probably
differences, yeah.
thousands of years of problems. Yeah. And if you ask, like most of us these days, especially those of us who travel and who get out a lot, we're like, what are these stupid, like somebody made somebody mad 2000 years ago and we're still talking about it. That's so silly.
I've
That's
actually
so
coached women from India, and they come to me because our cultures are so like similar, and we sort of understand each other's perspective. So it's always a good you know um, perspective, and we just end up laughing about stuff. And I know that some of the stuff that happened is serious, and it needs its own conversation. And not everything is as easy and breezy overall in the world, but on a very individualistic point of view, I think with the globalization of the world, I think it's okay to
yeah.
just when you're on a call with someone, just put aside your prejudice or your pre-assumed notions, and just look
Mhm.
at other people from a fresh pair of eyes, because the next time you hop on a call, a woman from Pakistan may not look like me. She might be wearing a hijab. She might have her child with her because her babysitter didn't show up, and he might be making some noise. But just it's okay to assume that she knows her stuff, because she does. So I just tend to like focus on telling people that I'm from Pakistan, so the next time someone hops on a call and they see someone who looks different, they would assume that she also knows her stuff, because this other person that I talked to, she knew her shit. So
That's amazing, right? Like if we stuck to what we see in social media and on cable news all the time, you'd think the whole world's on fire all the time. Then you meet people in person, and it's just
yeah.
and it's that's their job, is to make everything sound like it's terrible. We touched a little bit on like your outreach and having like the really good website as part of a proposal or reaching out to a client, and how that's kind of like a good foundation. Would you have any other advice as far as your outreach and getting conversion on clients, aside from having that good brand and everything else in place?
Yeah, I think the only advice that I have is to make sure that your pitch is just remember that your pitch or the first email that you send is your one chance of convincing the other person that you're a good copywriter. Because if you cannot convince that one person to hire you, are you really a good direct response copywriter? Because your job is to convince people to buy, to convince people to take action. So I think do not slack off with that first impression. And I always tend to walk down with the when I create a pitch, I just tend to think that, okay, if I'm the recruiter, what are some of the questions that might come in my mind? And I tend to create a fact section. I have a sort of a mini proposal in there, not keeping it too long, but like, just enough information for them to want to reply back to me and say, I want to learn more. So yeah, just make sure that you nail that first impression, because as a copywriter, your job is to convince, and you sort of make that happen, and you sort of show that you have, that the leverage to make that happen for your client again, if you convince people to at least reply you back.
That's smart. I didn't think of it that way. Like if you can't even pitch in an email and get a job, then what are you doing? I think we lost
Yeah.
Reese there. Yeah. So I guess the only other thing that we'd like to ask everyone is, and this is, you can get into this as little or as much as you'd like to. Are there any, or can you talk about any like major setbacks that you've had over the years and what you've done to overcome those? Like anything like that made you even question, like, why am I doing this? Like like the big ones, if you're comfortable getting into it.
Well, yeah, I did have this one gig that was really good. And it was with a big firm, and um, it happened around a time when I was ready to upscale. I was ready to commit to part-time and everything else in between. So, and when I started working, I just, I did not think that I was being compensated well for the amount of work that I was doing, because I'm a copywriter. And if somebody hires me to be this marketing strategist, um, I don't just want to work on admin stuff. I don't just want to work on, very minimal, just, admin stuff, or just, other stuff like that. I want to work on the strategy. I want to have a say on how you are running your campaign. So I did not have a good experience with that. And after 3 months of working together, we decided that this was not working for us. And although at that time I was like, okay, that's okay. But after that, like for like 2 weeks, I did not have any proposals that were being answered. And I like then freaked out that, oh, what is this, And that was like that major setback, which taught me to never give up on a job without having a second option, and B, I learned that the stuff that I learned, that basically I have to have a USP, like I have to have my unique selling proposition, or my X factor, or my differentiation factor, whatever you may want to call it, to stand out from other people. Because I'm not telling people that I'm an email copywriter, and they might just assume that, she's a strategist and she would take care of all the admin stuff as well. So I sort of, just became very clear that this is what I do. And this is what I would, instead of trying so hard to get a gig, any gig, I would try so hard to get that gig that I really want. And that may mean that I'm not applying to 10 gigs in a day, or I'm not like browsing through 10 projects in a day. I'm just maybe looking for 1 to 2 commitments per week, but I'm nailing that pitch, and I'm getting a yes on that. So yeah, I think every major setback always teaches you a lot. So
Yeah, no, they say like somebody who's never had any failure at all. I mean, obviously we all have things in life that go wrong on a daily basis, but it sucks. But you kind of, I mean, I kind of gotten used to it. Like now, it used to be in the beginning again, we were talking about like being desperate for a job. When I really needed something, I came across as weird, even weirder than I already am now, like prospecting. And then when like I get like a no, like I would send out something and I would hear back. And a lot of these companies are actually very polite. They'll tell you like, hey, we're not moving forward with whatever. And I'm like, well, that's nice. But it was like, I don't want to say crushing, but it's kind of like, you know. And now it's gotten to the point where it's kind of funny to me. Like I'll get an email from somebody a job or somebody I reached out to 2 months ago, and they're like, "Hey, just so you know, we're not considering you for the." I'm like, I don't even remember who you are. You know, it kind of, you do build up like that resilience, and
yeah,
it's same with not having the structured day and all the other things, or the steady income. You know,
yeah.
I don't know. I prefer it. Like I prefer the kind of the roller coaster of whatever. It makes life a little bit more exciting. Any final thoughts or anything that you'd like people to know, or where can everyone find you?
Well, yeah, my closing thought would be that anyone who is listening to this interview, if you have any question about freelancing or copywriting or starting with email marketing, hit me up in my DMs. I think you will mention the links down below, or my email. And if any marketing agency owner, or maybe a founder who is, confused about, oh, should we, run this email campaign, or should we incorporate VSLs into our marketing? Again, hit me up. And I would love for anyone who is listening to this video to subscribe to the Atypical Entrepreneur, my newsletter service that I recently rebranded. And we're going to talk about marketing, psychology, and persuasion. And basically, I'm going to go deep in um, how to how to give buyers what they really want. So instead of just trying to throw spaghetti on the wall hoping that it sticks, you're going to walk away with stuff that is actually going to work, and also make your prospects or your audience feel good when they're being sold to, because it doesn't always have to have that ick factor. In fact, it never has to have that ick factor. Your marketing message, even if it doesn't convert, should make the other person feel good. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's everything that we're going to learn inside that newsletter.
Well, really appreciate your time. Thanks for jumping on. I know we're in very different parts of the world, so it was awesome for you to make the time for us, and really appreciate it. And it's good to finally see you in person. So we're kind of like virtually in person or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, if we, what we'd like to do is maybe some point, down the road, we have another checkpoint. We can have you back on, see how
Oh, yeah.
everybody's doing. So to be continued. Thanks again. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had fun. I had fun having this conversation. It was great. And I would love to be back anytime.